I'm Nurse Dad, former Navy hospital corpsman and current ER nurse. You can also call me RN Glenn. I have full episodes of the Nurse Dad podcast available on YouTube and Spotify. You can catch a link to those at www.mynursedad.com. And my guests today are James and Czarina Adams. First, what is your Instagram page for everyone out watching?
So our Instagram page is called Nurses in Finance.
How do you get into this? Because you're nurses by trade. Czarina, do you still work as a nurse?
I work at a very part-time basis, more like per diem at this point.
And James, you're bragging you retired at 28, right?
Yeah, retired early.
That's great. I'm a nurse, obviously, ER nurse. And I saw that that's what really at first attracted me to your page. The fact that you are nurses by trade. It also feeds into my philosophy that whatever it is that you achieve, what your degree is, how you're working, what you do, it doesn't define you. And you're not limited to doing just that. How did you get into this?
So, well, for us, what we do is we teach financial literacy workshop. So our whole platform is designed to just spread financial literacy, teach things that typically aren't taught to us in school or growing up. And that's actually how we got started, is because working as nurses, we started realizing that we're young, we're making good income, especially here in Northern California. You probably know, the place you can make the most money as a nurse.
Right.
And we're making this great income, but at the end of the day, we had nothing to show for it. Right. That's when we started realizing that we needed to get better with our own money and our own finances. And we went out to go start learning things for ourselves. And we found so much value in what we were learning. We said, a lot of our own colleagues can maybe benefit from this information too. And that's how we got started.
When you said you went out and learned, what avenues did you pursue? And also the tag on, you get well paid in Northern California, but it's all here in New York quite pricey. So you're making money, but it's just going right out the window.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
So what avenues did you pursue on your own? Because I would imagine, like anyone else, you're curious. You're seeing what the internet can provide, what books. Like, for example, for myself, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book by a CPA called Tax-Free Wealth. Because a lot of people watching, I always dismissed it like, oh, I'm just not a finance guy and this and that. And then I heard two words that I couldn't bear: financial illiteracy. And just the illiteracy did something to me. And I said to myself, I'm financially illiterate. I don't like the way that sounds. When you were in that curious stage, where did you go to seek information?
Yeah, I mean, I started doing my own research, my own learning. Like I said, these things typically aren't taught to us. So unless someone is going to sit down and teach you these things, that person needs to go out and learn it for themselves, right? So I started just like you, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was probably one of the first books I read. Robert Kiyosaki also has the Cash Flow Quadrant book.
I read that too, right?
Yeah, Cash Flow Quadrant. Even some of the Dave Ramsey books I've read on it, just some of his things about minimizing debt and the debt snowball and all of that really helped us improve our financial literacy. But really what really helped us and why we decided to get started is because a friend of ours who was in the industry, in the finance industry, that's who we sat down with and just started really teaching us a lot of things that we weren't really aware of. And that's when I said, you know what, this is interesting stuff. I think a lot of our own colleagues can also benefit from this.
And even our own family.
In our own family, yeah.
I wonder if you could relate to this, because obviously there's different degrees of what you don't understand about finances. What allowed me to dismiss the whole subject altogether back in the day, and what really intimidated me, was the tax code. And that was one of the things I learned first, was the difference between when you're making an income, what portfolio income is, what making money off of assets, especially if you have an LLC or an S corp or something, and what you can write off. And it made sense. Like, not going back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and there are other books out there. And I know some people, they're even critical of that book, but it did break it down into 4 quadrants. And from my elementary mind in terms of finances, it gave me the confidence to continue to read. So for me, it was the tax code. I was very intimidated by it. It kept me away from the whole subject of finance in general. Was there anything like that for you? Like a part of it that you just, you dismissed, I'll never understand that, or that's just too complicated. Was there anything like that?
I think it's the whole idea of retirement.
Yeah.
Because
which is scary, right?
It's very
if
scary.
You have to engage your finances, you might see that, oh, I'm not ready for retirement. I don't even want to think of
Exactly.
that right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And we saw it with our own two eyes. We saw it with our own families. So if you guys didn't notice, me and James are Filipinos. So a lot of Filipino nurses out there, and it's looking at our own community, looking at our own family, and looking at what does the end look like. And we couldn't seem to see it. And our a lot.
Filipinos. I didn't know I had anyone who was a member of the mafia here. As a former Navy guy and hospital man, the Filipino mafia is real. No, I say that in jest,
Yeah,
but
the
um,
Filipino mafia is real.
I love
Yep.
the connection between the two, like United States and the Philippines and the whole history. And I got to tell you, when it comes to work ethic, that's all you need to tell me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Right? We so many family members, so many people in our own community, the Filipino community, they come here to the US, become nurses, thought the American dream for us,
Yeah.
but there did not seem to be an end in sight. And that's
Yeah.
what scared me and James the most.
Me too. My wife, she makes the bacon. I make the bacon bits as a nurse. That's how I describe it. Our kids are still toddlers, but as they get older, like it's funny with kids, as they get older and you have more space in your brain to start reclaiming some of the things you might have done before kids, or just like that meant, oh, I can think. We're really starting to explore what we could do financially. So when you did your
Yes.
research, and there was such a key what you said about having a friend in finance. We have a couple of people that we could talk to. I think that's great advice for someone who's maybe past the initial curious phase, to whether they have to get a financial advisor or not, to sit down and speak to somebody. Probably somebody, would you agree, that maybe doesn't have exactly a stake in it? Because there's financial advisors that work for a company and everything they say is ultimately going to be shaped around doing business with that
Sure.
organization.
Yeah.
What type of person would you seek out for advice on to that degree?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's important to sit down with someone, because the great thing about the internet today is that we have information is so readily available to us, and there's so much
Yeah.
information out there. Anyone can do their own research. That also has its drawbacks, because you don't know that there's so much that you could get overwhelmed, and you don't
There's a
know
lot of
what
gurus out there too.
exactly, right? And you don't know who to trust, who to listen to. So talking to someone, I think, is important. Who to look for, I think, is someone that is what we call fiduciary, right? Someone that has your best interest, someone that, isn't just looking out for the best interest of themselves. Because a lot of the finance industry, some of it's a lot based on commissions and assets under
Yeah.
management. And that's what a lot of people are chasing after. So I think
Right.
someone that just has a client's best interest definitely is who you would look for.
Is that something that you and your wife do now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There are people that we sit down with that we've just educated about financial concepts and have gotten nothing in return. And they didn't do business with us. They didn't open up any plans with us, but at least we can help educate them, and they could take that information and do what they want with it. Or our free financial literacy workshops we have. People can come in. It's just very educational. They can come in, and then it's up to them whether they want to take advantage of the things that we're teaching or not.
I
Right.
want to get more into that, but before, what were some of the steps you took now that you're past the curious phase? You spoke to a professional who gave you information. What were some of the steps you took when you felt confident enough?
In terms of our own finance, or in terms of like
Yeah, yeah,
business, or
yeah. I would assume you didn't want to necessarily park your money anymore. You want to
oh,
kind
I
of
see. Yeah,
enter that
yeah,
world of
yeah,
finance. What can I invest in? What were some of the initial
yeah,
things? Now putting your quote, no pun intended, money where your mouth is.
correct. Yeah, go ahead,
I
Angie.
we had to face the elephant in the room. It's just getting on the scale and just looking at where you're at. So the first thing we did was we had to really look at our own stuff, look at where everything is. Because what happened was that we were just putting money away blindly. Because everybody was like, hey, just max your 401k, you should be good to go. And so that was what was happening with us back then. We
Yeah.
maxed out our 401ks and it was a free for all after that. Nothing else. What we ended up doing is we ended up doing a what we call a personal financial strategy. So we did an assessment of our own stuff, just laid it all out, and then just realized that what we were doing was not where we were, what was not going to get us where we wanted to be. So we
Uh,
had to change things up, started using different strategies and really honing in on that knowledge, not just having the knowledge there and then hope to God that it'll work.
Yeah,
Did anything change as a nurse? Did you work more to put money into different places? Did you just save differently?
Yeah, I think it was just us saving differently. And I think that's one of the problems is it really just comes down to people's spending habits and their saving habits and the disciplines they have with money, right? And their
Mm.
budgeting. And a lot of times people just think if I can pick up an extra shift, if I can make more money, then it solves all the problems. But if our habits are not in order, we don't have the right habits, then, you know, the problems just get bigger. That's
Yeah.
what we always say is if we don't have the right habits, then your income goes up, so does your lifestyle. So for us, it was just nothing really changed in terms of the amount of hours we worked. It's just adjusting our budget and saving a certain amount in different places or
Real.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Reallocating. Yeah.
It stinks with the salary income because I noticed if I worked 3 shifts as a staff nurse, okay, and then you get suckered to work that fourth shift or you volunteer, and you notice you just get slammed even more with taxes. Where I would tell people, if you really want to make money, work 2 per diem shifts at one organization and
Yeah.
2 at another organization because you're
Yeah.
going to keep more of your money. I do like that. I can't remember his last name, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's not about how much money you make, how much money you keep. That was one
Correct.
of the slogans I heard that kind of blew my mind in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you get hammered with the taxes. Did you figure out any kind of way that worked for you to acquire assets that make you money, where you're not solely relying on your job for income? You're doing this financial advising now, right? You're
Yeah.
doing how beneficial has this been for you?
Yeah. With what we do now, we're 1099s now, right? So we're,
Yeah.
independent contractors, business owners. That 1099 alone helps with a lot of the tax issues we were having before as nurses as W-2s. So
W-2s, yeah.
yeah, so having the 1099 definitely helped us a whole lot in terms of the taxes. Because before then, as a W-2, you're limited on your write-offs, right? You can
Yeah.
write off your 401k contributions. If you have kids, they could be tax shelters, your mortgage. But sometimes if we're already doing all those things and still having to pay taxes at the end of the year, then we have to look at other ways we can be able to increase our deductions. So that's why our
Mhm.
1099 has really helped with that.
I think people forget that tax savings is an important aspect of wealth building because it's about being able
Yes.
to keep
Mhm.
what you can make. What you make as a
Yes.
$200,000 as a W-2 is very different as $200,000 in 1099.
Correct.
The 1099 get to keep
Yeah.
much more and get to do something with it.
All these things that blew my mind in my journey. For example, if you're selling a house and maybe if you reinvest to avoid capital gains, or
Mhm.
I'll tell you a story real quick. I don't want to make it about me, but one of the things that inspired me with the books we were mentioning was, and this, I guess this could be perceived as a failure, but it's, I learned a lot and I didn't lose any money doing it. I started a nurse staffing company. In fact,
Mhm.
at the time of this recording, if you go to greensidestaffing.com, it's still up there, the website. I did it for a year, and there were a couple of things that really, it was really surprising that I could have pursued, but it was becoming one of those things where I was gonna be away from my kids, like 7 AM to
Oh,
7 PM I was trying to do this nurse staffing company all by myself, but I started an S corp, and I'm operating out of my house. I'm doing tax write-offs on, like, the electric bill, on all the money I put into the company, all the paperwork,
mhm.
and one of the things that, Zarina, that you had mentioned was my wife and I, the year before, were like, "Oh my god, we owe this money for
Yep.
taxes." She's almost being taxed 50% on, like, a commission or something that, and we're just like, all we did was get married. We're getting punished for this, and then so
Yeah.
we owed, like, over $10,000, and then the year I did this company, we got back like
Yeah.
$1,000,
Yeah.
and it just was like, okay, it didn't work out. I was given an opportunity where I could have worked with one of the biggest staffing companies. It was through a veteran-owned small business, and they have this sort of like apprenticeship type of thing. So if your veteran-owned small business is so big, but you're another one that's small, it's one of those things. But it would have been like a lot of hours, and I had to like really look in the mirror and be like, "Do you want to see your kids?" So I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, you know what? So I closed it up, and like I said, it didn't cost me anything. And I say this because I learned so much in the doing of it. I had actually done it, and I try to tell people, like, don't be afraid to fail or to go for it. I have a buddy who owns a company. He's doing 7 figures, but it's his third company. The 2 that were failures. They
Mhm.
failures because he couldn't have done this company without those other 2.
Correct.
But that's something I always promote. Just don't be afraid to go for it. In this type of business model, I didn't have to take out a business loan and anything like that. I always say to people, if you don't be afraid to fail. Were there pursuits that you had done where you learned the hard way? Oh,
Oh
this
my
hasn't
God.
worked out as much.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
You talked about having your friend having 3 different business. We actually started 7 before we did this one.
okay.
7
See,
different
that's
types of
good to
business.
hear. People need to hear that stuff because it's
Mhm.
you go online and it's like everyone's a guru and everyone's doing it and they're killing it. It's
Yeah.
so easy. If you do it, it's good that people hear that.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure a lot of I'm sure there was people in your life who were very critical of each of those 7
absolutely.
pursuits when it
Oh,
Absolutely.
didn't
yeah.
work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a point in our careers where maybe you could tell the story about how you were burnt out.
I got burnt out very early on in my career, probably within the first year of nursing.
That's
And
for you.
I did med tele and step down.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you? What about your wife?
Zarina?
What
NICU.
NICU? Oh, hey, my heart goes
Exactly.
out to you.
Yeah. So it was a year in, and I'm already questioning if this career path was the right choice or,
Yeah.
so I tried different things in nursing. I also worked in cardiology clinics. I did school nursing. I did all kinds of different avenues of nursing. But yeah, I was just getting burnt out and was just trying to find different avenues that I can maybe make extra income so that I could cut down hours at work just for my
Yeah.
own like mental health. So that's where we started all these different businesses and none of them really panned out
Hey,
until we started using
LLCs?
it. We
Were
had
they
a few
all
LLCs,
LLCs?
yeah, yeah, we had a few LLCs with it, yeah.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
S corp for mine because I had ambitions for outside of the state, and it just seemed like it was an extra level of protection. My dad owns an S corp. He's a forklift mechanic, or was. He retired, but
Okay, yeah,
we were talking about the money you keep. There's it's something to consider, at least certainly an LLC, because you're spending money to try to make money, and you get
mhm,
back a lot of that initial investment, and you can protect
correct,
yourself, protect your assets.
yeah, yeah. So, it was a lot of learning lessons in all of those things,
But you
but
kept your heads up
oh,
7
yeah, and
times.
it's helped all of that were just learning lessons for our business now. I feel like all of that just helped prepare us for our business here because this is what we're really wanting to build and focus on.
A shared inspiration, like you saw an example of what you wanted. What
Yes.
was that? What kept because there's such bad days. There are days where you just feel like an absolute loser. What
Yeah.
got you through that?
I think for us, it was just really when we started working as nurses and then we started having opposite shifts and then never really got to see each other or spend the time together anymore. And I think that was really the thing that really motivated us to be able to change that so we can have more time together. Because before it was just
Yeah.
like, you're just, when I'm going to work, she's coming home. And then when she's leaving, I'm
Right.
coming home. And you don't get to eat breakfast together. You don't get to eat dinner together. And just, it's like, how can you build a life together like that?
Yeah.
So that was really the biggest thing for us in the beginning.
And then
Biggest
even when
thing.
you do spend time with each other, you're too overwhelmed. You're trying to like data dump the shifts. But sometimes
Yeah.
you just don't want to hang out with anybody.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Be with you, but leave me alone.
Yeah.
I know, I know. I will say though, being a nurse, what it does to your brain in terms of multitasking, being able to dismiss the type of pressure that would probably crack a lot of people in half. Also, the creativity that's involved. Also, going against the machine. Sometimes the hospital system is in your way as you're trying to care for individuals. All of this really does complement the entrepreneur spirit. Did you find that to be true?
Absolutely. I think one of the reason why nurses do so well in business is because we are so resilient. Stuff gets thrown at you, and it just at a certain point you're just like you just go through it, and you make
Yeah.
it through because you know that there is an end in sight. So that's what we keep our vision towards is that knowing that there is something better out there that we do deserve much better, not just us, but a lot of people around us. We have so many
Yes.
hardworking people in this community, in the nursing community. I think it's such a disservice when these people are not helped, and that's what we aim to be able to do for other people too.
Yeah, that's a good answer. No, you hit the nail right on the head. It hit the nose. think some bouncer talk came from back in the day. Uh, no, that's great. What did I see? I was looking at your Instagram, and this is Nurses in Finance, which I will
Mhm.
say was one of the big reasons why I was willing to just go on a limb and trust you, because I know that you're nurses. That I think that has something to say about uh, just being a nurse in general. That
Mhm.
there's a level of integrity in everything that you do, especially if you're going to say, "Hey, I was a nurse." You could have not said that. You could have been like, "This is what we do. We keep everything separate." But you're saying it for a reason, I think,
Mhm.
and I can tell you're sincere. But what are those? Are they seminars? What is that? When I see you on stage, you're talking to people. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So our whole platform and organization is just all about financial literacy. Our
Mhm.
mission within the organization is to educate 30 million families by 2030 in terms of financial literacy, right? And we have all our materials. We have books that our organization has made that just talks about basic financial concepts, everything from retirement planning to everything from 401ks, IRAs, insurance,
Yeah.
annuities, all of these great things. And then also have a broader reach. We also have webinars, or not webinars, but workshops 5 days a week, Monday through
Wow.
Friday, 3 times a day. They're all free, and it's for the general public that they can come in and they can just learn. And then some of the
Are they
concepts.
live or pre-recorded?
Yeah, live
How do you
live.
manage all that? How do you do all that?
We're all spread out through the US. So we have over 300 financial centers across the US. We have about 40,000 licensed agents within the organization. So there's a lot of help in being able to just spread the word. But we all speak the same language. We all have the same mission, and just being able to go out spread financial literacy. So some of those workshops, they're teaching things on like building savings and wealth, debt management, and increasing cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Accumulation strategies, even social security for the people that are getting ready to retire and wanting to learn, like, when is it best to start taking my social security? So just
Mhm.
all those things that people aren't really familiar with or aren't taught on, our organization's going out and teaching these things.
Oh, you definitely piqued my interest. I might have to take you up on a few things.
It's all free.
Especially
Right?
now that the kids are getting older, like, it just frees up my mental space, and
Yeah.
James, you were talking about what you're not taught in school. It's stellar when you have kids of your own, just how much you're not taught in school, and when you are a parent, it's like you're fighting everything. You're fighting for the kid to eat healthily. You're fighting for them
Right.
to learn, to be educated. You're fighting to keep them fit. It's just amazing which
Your
conflict it
priorities
takes.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think
and I
that's
think
what also makes dad such a good business owner, entrepreneur, because you guys are pulled in so many different directions. In some way, somehow, you guys found a way to deliver, right? And
hey,
that's the best.
don't sell yourself short, Nikki Nurse, and,
Moms do the same thing.
come
Yes.
on.
You get this day to day.
Let me tell you, my wife, so she's a businesswoman at a really, huge company, and she works at home a lot, which is so underrated because I think it's almost worse to work at home, especially as a mom, and I'll tell you why. If dad was in his office working, dad's not coming down to help out with the changing or, "Oh, let me get this outfit for her," or, "Let me talk to mother-in-law about this or that," or women and mothers just it's like, "God bless you." Like, I could be home from work and she's up there working and she'll still come down and bring an outfit for me and, "Okay, put this shirt on." Just that kind of dads aren't doing that.
I
God bless
agree.
mothers. God bless the
Yes.
mothers. You did this in a relatively short period of time. It's very impressive, the 40,000 agents and being spread out all over the country. It seemed like when after those attempts, when you got it right, it just ballooned. How did you what was your growth plan? How did that happen?
Yeah. Right.
So the 40,000 agents is not of ours. Okay. We have about 30 of our own in our own team, but the 40,000
Mhm.
is we are part of that organization.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I will say though that when we first, again, we're starting all these businesses, it was very difficult to get things growing because we were not in an environment of growth, right? You have to be able to put yourself in an environment of growth. And that's what allowed us to shoot up to the numbers that we have today. But as far as being able to reach us, we do have a lot of financial centers all over the United States. Most larger cities will have a couple. You're in New Jersey, right?
New York.
Okay, so there is a couple out there. We're up to Hawaii, Alaska. Obviously, here in California, there's at least 30 of them. But that's the idea, is if you don't know us, we need to be able to get to you. Yeah. Right now, we have nurses in our own team that are all over the United States. So to give you an example, we have one out in Dallas. We can't personally keep going to Dallas every day, every week to
Yeah,
help
yeah, yeah.
this person in that community. So we've been able to leverage the financial centers out there to help our person grow. We have a person out in Indiana and she's got family in Chicago. So she goes to the Chicago Financial Center and she's
Right.
bringing the community out there and helping educate whoever she knows. And of course, you're being able to reach out to the mainstream.
I didn't really understand it in my 20s. I was a struggling independent filmmaker, and it was like almost like how can I just solely promote myself with other people? But when you really understand networking, and it's like how can I help you, which
Correct.
will help me in the process, and also you just get so much more confidence when you're putting in the work and you're not threatened by anyone else putting in the
Correct.
work to just
Yeah.
develop a community for yourself. It's like a community of people, entrepreneurs who are, you have the dark side, people who are just insecure and it's just, they just want to pick everyone apart. But when you're like when you know you've put the work in, when you know you found your voice, it's really so uplifting to meet other people who are successful. It
Correct.
really motivates.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
just want to put that out there. You certainly must have learned that lesson. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
imagine you'd be everywhere without that. You must be, I could tell you're great people to network with.
Yeah, of course. It's always, I think you said it, networking, it's all about how can I give you value, right? Because
Yes.
then in return, you're going to get value back in one way or the other. And even this right here, like this podcast is a form of networking, right? And being able to
Right.
connect and share the stories and provide value to your audience, right? That's all of that is networking is essential in business. Yeah.
There's a lot of people just struggling. We just got
Mhm.
educated. You might, I really, you're nurses, like in mental health, like one of the downfalls of people, especially those that might go into suicidal ideation or whatever it is, they start isolating themselves. When I was in the military, when I was attached to Marine School of Infantry, I was a hospital corpsman, and you get these new groups of Marines straight out of boot camp. For every 150, there were just 5 Marines who they just wanted to go AWOL or do anything they can to get out of it. And
Wow.
most of it was just attitude. It was like you're not seeing the bigger picture. You're not seeing the fruit of your labor. You're not seeing that you have a whole bunch of people here who support you. If you just get through the initial, it's going to always hurt in the beginning. You've been a Marine for 13 weeks. It gets better. And I think that applies to just business, life in general, but business or any kind of pursuit. It's going to hurt and be uncomfortable at first, but you need to maintain that attitude that you're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there. You just have to just not cut yourself off from life.
Agreed. There's
Right.
strength in numbers. So much strength in numbers and being able to do it together. James said this mission of ours is to be able to educate 30 million families by 2030. We cannot do it alone. Not even just our own
No.
team of 30. That's not enough.
Right.
We have to have enough. And imagine a world where 30 million people are financially educated. Even just one person to know about how to make their money work a little bit harder for them, how to be able to save on these taxes, we wouldn't have half the problems we have today.
What are some things that somebody can do right now that would improve their financial life?
Think right now, just like what me and Czarina did when we were trying to get better ourselves, is doing a self audit on yourself or doing your own like financial checkup, right? Going to the doctor, for example, right? Like we should go to the doctor at least once a year, right? Just to get an
Right.
annual checkup, just to see. And even if we're healthy, we still go to get checked up just to make sure everything's still good. And you think about when's the last time people have done their own financial checkup, right? Alone, sit down. When
I'm
have they
guilty
sat
of that.
down with a financial professional to do a financial checkup, right? Let alone
Yeah.
going through it themselves. I think that would be the first thing because you have to know where you're currently at if you're going to change anything. You have
Yeah.
to have that awareness of where you're currently at if you want to get better in the future. So that's what I would say is something that someone can do right away is doing a self audit, doing a financial checkup. It's better with a financial professional so that they can really go through and come through it. But that's something that can really help.
I have a buddy who started making more money, and I guess that was the big thing. Oh, I'm making more money now. And I remember thinking to myself, you might feel like you have a license to spend more. I remember when I was a bartender back in the day, way back in the day, we had the little glass tubes for peanuts, and sometimes they were dirty. So I would use a rocks glass. I
Yes.
remember, again, like where my brain is. I remember noting that when I put thinking, or sometime one time I think I thought, I'm so sick of changing those little things. Let me just put a rocks glass of the peanuts. I noticed that people, whether it was the little tube or the rocks glass, which was like twice the size, they finished it at the same rate. And so it was like, if you make more money and you don't have a plan, or you don't see how much you do make, you might make more money and not even realize, now for for reasons you don't know, you're just spending more money. You might not even see like a new car or a new TV, but just like little things. Oh, I'm gonna go buy more takeout, or hey, I'm gonna get more coffee now from Starbucks. I can afford it. I think it's like what you said, know what your expenses are. And then, like in this example, if you're making more money, how can I invest more, or can I put more into savings? I think that what you said, that self audit, instead of just like these I'm not generalizations, like I'm not making as much this year, or I'm making more this year.
So people have a standard of living.
Yeah.
One of the things that me and James had to learn to have is a standard of saving, a standard of investing. You have to
Yeah.
have a standard in life, right? All of us have a standard in our lifestyle. There are things that we like that we know we do not want to compromise on. The same thing, we have to look at ourselves. What kind of future do you want? And you have to have a standard for that, because nobody wants to work for 40 years of their life to come down to the point where they have to downgrade.
I
And
know,
no
that's
need
what's
goals.
scary. It's
Right.
you
That's
read the
the
articles
scary part.
about baby boomer generation, which lived relatively well, trying to survive off 1,000 a month,
Mhm.
And
$1,000 a month. It's like
it's
Can't do it.
scary.
full of cars. You had a big house. You had this, and now it's like $1,000 a month. Oh
Mhm.
man.
Yeah. So every time me and James will have some sort of a bonus in the business or more money than we typically will see, we ask ourselves, okay, how much of it are we going to allow ourselves to have fun with? And how much of this are we going to be putting away, and where and why? Those types of things. Because over time is some of those things that may be a luxury for some people to be able to have, or maybe like holiday money. The holidays are going to come up now in the next couple of months. This is
Yeah.
money that you typically don't have. Are you going to be putting it away? What are you going to be doing? Being aware of those types of things too.
Yeah. Or you have kids like we do, and it seems like there's a birthday every 2 weeks.
That part.
Or you guys are young. You're younger. You're in that stage where it seems like everyone's getting married every
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of months.
Yeah.
It's, oh
Yep.
man, more.
More
More gifts.
gifts.
I read in an article that every time you go to a wedding, it's about $600. It costs $600 because
That's
you're
kind of
given a wedding
conservative.
present, everything, right? It's just crazy.
It's funny. I'm just like, I wish it was just like, what's wrong with just the backyard, lots of food, make it special. Everything has to
Yep.
be such a production now. Everything is a
Yeah.
production. I don't
Everything's
know.
for the gram.
I know, and that's that too, right? Everything's for the gram. Part of this podcast was trying to, what kind of world do you want for your kids? And so I want to engage this social media on my terms. What can I do to reach out to people? And when I saw what you guys do, finance is just, it's intimidating. You're not shown all the cards. It's hard. Some people feel like they need to make a certain amount. And let me ask you that, like some people are really living paycheck to paycheck. How little can you start putting away, or um, to accumulate wealth? What avenues would you recommend? A savings? Would you recommend an IRA? Or would you recommend investing, or getting together with a group of people? I'll just say one more story. I have a friend who's literally a prison guard in the Midwest, and he invested in I think it's some kind of condominium complex with a group of investors. And he did that for a couple of years, and he learned a lot. And now he actually bought his own apartment complex through an LLC that he started. That was his education. That built his confidence. What can the average Joe Blow or Jane Blow do with whatever pennies they're making to try to enter this field?
Yeah. You want to answer that?
Yeah, you can start as little as a couple of dollars to however much you need, right? I think the biggest thing in this, the first thing you have to just at least do is talk to somebody, because
Right.
you can have all of this money and maybe still do the wrong thing,
Right.
not realizing it. I'll give you an example. Just like me and James back then when we first started as nurses, we were like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and we've never seen money like this before. We're going to max out our 401ks, right? We did that,
Right.
23,000 every year for 5 years. And it was good money, but then we were thinking in our mind, we were going to do that to be able to buy a house. And
Right.
so the time came that we were looking at houses, and we qualified for X amount of dollars. And we go to the mortgage person. I call my 401k place and they go, and I said, hey, I need this much money. And they go, if you need that much money, you're only going to be really able to take out half. And I said, well, that's not enough. That's not enough for what we wanted. So there was a disconnect in the goal and what we were doing. So I think just being able to talk to somebody and figure out the goal first. Because a lot of people do this whole thing blindly and they expect big results with having put in
Right.
little, or they expect this some sort of result, even though they've put a lot and it just doesn't meet the expectation. Because there's so many different avenues out there. Looking back at what we were doing before, we could have done a different strategy. We could have done something different with that money, and we could have bought the
Right.
house that we wanted back there. But things happen for a reason, no regrets or anything like that. That was a learning
Yeah,
lesson.
yeah.
Not one type of investment will work for everybody. It's not a one size fit all. It's what do you need and what are you willing to be able to do for it?
Yeah. And I think the feeds into
Yeah.
that self-audit. What can you live without? What adjustments you can make? I think that's important.
Yeah. Because IRA, the way we look at these things like the IRA, 401k, wells, all of those things, pensions, they're not one more important than the other. It's
Yeah.
all driving a car. I'm not going to tell you, Glenn, that your wheels are more important than your steering wheel. And they're all
Right.
important. Okay. We all need them to be able to move forward in life. It's just what is most feasible for your lifestyle. I'm not here to take away things from people. Right.
Right.
Let's learn to reallocate and figure out what's going to get you to where you need to be the fastest, maybe.
Reallocate is the key word. You're not losing or sacrificing. You're just adjusting, reallocating.
Yeah. Correct.
Do you have a website that people can go to?
We mainly just use our Instagram. It's like our connection point of
Nurses in
contact.
Finance. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
great Instagram page. I like the
Mhm.
Thank you.
videos that you have. You guys really come off sincere. I know you are. This is who you are to as much as we are in public. Like, this is who I am. I'm obviously a goofball who's tripping over his tongue.
Yeah.
Maybe should not host a podcast, but I'm going for it. But
That's awesome.
husband and wife team over here, nurses, still in it, still in the NICU.
Mhm.
I got a child of your own. Thank you for what you do. I feel like when it comes to finance, if you talk too specifically, too much about it, people tend to tune out. It's not
Yeah.
like the most fascinating subject, but I like relating it to you because people love stories as I do. And
Mhm.
your story is, you must have a big family. Filipinos, big family?
My mom has
That you're responsible for?
there's 12 of them. My mom has 11 siblings.
Wow.
So she has 12. So I have big family on that side. Yeah.
I've been to Subic Bay. I've been to the Philippines. I
Oh.
trained with the Filipino Marines. I love that whole area. I wish I can go back.
Yeah. It's going to be James's first time when we go.
Yeah.
So I've been to the Philippines and James has it. I don't know what that says. I think I got a little bit of a card there. I don't know what you call, maybe a guest or something, or I don't know. But like in the Navy, we call them we joke, we call it the Filipino Mafia, but it's not, it's a community, but it's a very open community. If you work hard and you're a good person, it's like, hey, come on in. That's one of the things I loved about that culture was, if you're a good dude and you're working hard, come on in. This isn't just, you're not invited. You two come off like that. That's why I'm not surprised. Here you are trying to help 30 million families. You're trying to like spread the wealth. You're trying to spread the information out. I'm not surprised at all. That's been my experience with your culture. You're Americans, but Filipino Americans. But it's very refreshing. It's one of my favorite things to do with this podcast is connect to people like you. And I'm serious. I'm probably going to connect to you privately and for some advice on things.
Yeah.
And we'll keep people updated. We'll have you on again. It's Father's Day.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day to James and to both of
Likewise.
us, but also thank you
Likewise.
to all the mothers out there that make our jobs a lot easier.
Thank you for having us, Glenn. This is such a pleasure. Again, me and James just want to be able to connect with as many people so that we can help as many people because we know what it's like to work so hard.
Yeah.
And to me and James, why we really want to be able to educate people about money is because time is money. So when
time is money.
When somebody's educated about money, that just buys them more time. And I think that's the most important thing about, especially you and I, we've got families, you've got kids. If we're out just working and having no idea of how to make this money work, then what are we doing this for?
I'm glad you said it like that. We've all heard time is money, but the way you articulated that, I just want to add one thing. I grew up middle class. I grew up well. And then in my 20s, I left school and I was not middle class anymore. And sometimes I had to get on government assistance and this and that. It's expensive to be poor. It's expensive to live paycheck to paycheck, even when you're
Mhm.
doing everything right. It's
Well,
like you go to the ER, you might have insurance, but I have to pay $300 before that kicks in. And
yeah.
some people like that $300, that's just, when I went into
Yeah.
the Navy, when I went into the Navy, you can't have debt. And my whole life the whole ground broke from under me. I declared bankruptcy for $10,000 to get into the
Wow.
Navy. And I was so
Well,
broke and destitute. I was 27 years old, 28 years old. That $10,000 might as well have been $100,000. And all I did was accumulate it by just the little things I could not afford. It was just a whole bunch of little things, and also not understanding like debt at that time. Again, you want to talk about
mhm.
education, people in their 20s, but also you're 18 years old, and suddenly I remember walking down the hallway at school, and there's all these credit card companies trying to give you these credit cards. That's your
What?
education. The credit card companies talking to a
Yeah.
creditor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for which is basically, here's your card, go spend money. But yeah, it's very expensive. Life is really harsh when you don't have enough. Life is harsh in general, but what you're doing and what I'm promoting, really what touches me about this is you don't want people to just struggle, like you were saying. You want people to enjoy their children, enjoy their life. Everyone that deserves that. Most people, they're working hard, they're trying to like just spend time with their families, and they just deserve to enjoy their lives. And so thank you for what you do. I don't want to talk too much. I know we already said goodbye, but yeah, thank you for what you do. Go to Nurses in Finance on Instagram and learn all about James and Zarina and what they do.
Thank you
Awesome.
so
Thank you,
much.
Glenn.
All right.
All right.
Wait, hold up. Here, is it okay if I do a quick Instagram video to
Yeah, in
promote?
fact, thank you for reminding me. I want to do one
Yeah.
too. I'm so
Yeah.
bad with this stuff sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you do for your video? I'm filming you right now just for a
Yeah.
second. I just want to say hi to James and Zarina. They are financial professionals that advise people like me on how we could be more financially literate.
I love your stuff. Like looking at looking at all the stuff that you have, the content that you have, it's just being able to give. People that do so well in life are the ones who give so much. And I
Yeah, I
appreciate.
believe that. Before you leave, just on that note, because I remember a clinical I did, and it was with the people who were substance abuse disorder. And I remember a guy who he had been addicted to drugs for a long time. And he said, you don't keep anything you don't give away. And I've never forgotten that. If you have knowledge, give it away. That's how you're allowed to keep it. That's how you develop
Yeah.
it. That's how you hear other opinions. You
Okay.
don't hoard information.
How long have you been a nurse for, Glenn?
I became a nurse in 2018, but I was in the Navy Hospital
Okay.
Corps from 2009. It's funny because
Oh, wow.
I was certified to put in a chest tube as a hospital corpsman, but as a nurse, obviously, I can't do stuff like that. I was
Take care.
suturing,
Yeah.
people. I was prescribing certain medications. I was,
My God.
very independent, and
Yeah.
perhaps it gave me a false idea of what a civilian nurse is to do.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God.
I'll make honestly, part of doing this podcast was also because I felt a little bit stagnant. I feel like I've
Mhm.
achieved what I can achieve as an ER nurse, and
Mhm.
let me take this thing and reach out to people. Let's talk about
Yeah.
wellness among
Yeah.
all
Mm,
people. Let's
Yeah.
put some common sense back in the dialogue. Let's stop dividing people over this belief and that belief. Because you know what? As a nurse, you
Right.
don't have that luxury. You have a patient. It doesn't matter. I got to put a leads on a patient with a cardiac issue. This has happened. I've unbuttoned the shirt. Boom, swastika tattoo. Can't bat an
Wow.
eye. You got to do your job.
Wow.
It's just tired of people talking down to people, or I'm
Mhm.
not saying I accept that in somebody.
yeah.
Yeah.
The idea that like you come across people who you might not have the same belief system, but you do need to talk to people.
Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly.
We all
Because you
bleed
know
the
what,
same color at the end of the day.
that guy with the tattoo, I bet you if his kid was in a burning house and a firefighter saved his kid's life, who was Filipino or black or something, he
Well,
might have, that's somebody who can be educated. I don't give up on
yeah.
people like that. And I think
That
if you accuse and you vilify and this and that, then you're just giving up on people who may be able to come to the light side. You
Yeah.
know, that's my
yeah.
philosophy on things.
Well, I agree. We
That's
have
awesome.
the saying in our team because a lot of our teammates are nurses, so a lot of them have become licensed in this industry with us, and
Oh, really?
it gets tough. Wait, just like in any business, just like in nursing.
Yeah.
So to me, we always tell our teammates, we don't give up on you until you give up on us giving up on you, because we know what
Yeah.
this industry can do for people, and just even on a compensation standpoint, on the way we've been able to make the money that we do now, being able to replace that nursing income without having to be away from them, is the biggest deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know?
And really to be a
Yeah.
better nurse, I'm sure you're not so dependent on going in there and you're able to give more of yourself because let's face it, the industry wants to work you to the bone and you have to
Yeah.
find your balance with that. And it's not working to the bone. That's not the balance. You have to,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, it can get
Yeah.
overwhelming and
Yeah.
people, I think they deserve to know that there is other options out there. It's almost like you pick a field to go into, but it becomes like a bit of a prison. Like you don't have to, you could become a nurse, you could become anything, a teacher, but you can still pursue other avenues. It's not over after that.
Yeah. Well, so
Right.
how often do you work?
I do the 3 days a week. I'm trying to be there for the kids. Like, it makes no sense to work more and have to rely on daycare more. I like making
Absolutely.
dinners, and my wife, like I said, I joke she makes the bacon, but she does, and she works more hours than I do. And if I could be, if I'm home to make more of the dinner and the breakfast and stuff like that, then I know everyone's eating right. And when I was
Yeah.
stationed in Italy for a year and a half, Italy taught me to smell the roses. And
Yeah.
Italy has its own issues when it comes to we're talking work ethic. And I'm not damning Italy. There's a lot of hardworking people there, but sometimes it could be a little bit. There's a lot of roses to smell in Italy. I think Americans they're working too much, or there's not much of a work-life balance. We don't even talk about a
Right.
work-life balance.
Yeah. My sister is a nurse out in England, and I keep telling her, I said, you'd make 3 times more here. And she said, yeah, it'd be 3 times more away from my children. I
Right.
was like,
Yeah.
it's
And that's the
well,
thing I was talking about greenside staffing. There was an opportunity, but I would never have seen my kids. And you're talking about the most critical time of their lives.
yeah.
But hey, let me let you go, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Sounds good, Glenn.
All
Bye.
right.